Hey everyone, and welcome back to the series of Python. In the last session, we came to know about the history and features of Python. In this session, we will learn about language processors. We will understand what they are and how they work. Let's get started. What is a language processor? Well, a language processor is a program or a software that converts a high level language or a high level code into the machine code. Now, what this means, let me explain to you in detail. We have understood that Python is a programming language, and any programming language or any code written in a programming language gets converted into the machine code or binary code, right? So, just a second. Let's say this is the code written in a programming language, and this gets converted into the machine code, that is 0, 1, a collection of zeros and ones. Now, we need something here, right, that can convert this programming language into machine language. So that something is called as language processors. Okay, so the language processors, what they do is they convert a high level code into a low level code. And by high level code, I mean the code which is written in any programming language is generally a high level code, and this code gets converted into the machine language. Actually, it's not necessarily machine language, it can be any type of low level code. It just has to be lower than this language right here. So in simple terms, the language processors translates a high level code into a low level code. Now let's take a look at the types of language processors. Language processors are of three types: first compiler, second interpreter, and third assembler. Let's understand each one of them in detail. Compiler. A compiler converts the whole program written in a high level language. Obviously, the program which we will write will be a sort of high level language, and converts the high level program into a low level formatted code or a machine code at once. Now, this is the key point here. The compiler converts the high level program into a low level program at once. This means it translates the whole source code in a single go. Now, interpreter. The interpreter converts the high level program into a low level code or a machine code one line at a time. That's the key difference between a compiler and an interpreter. That the interpreter takes or picks up the first line, let's say, from the program, and then executes that and shows us the output of that particular line. And then when it's done, it goes on to the next line. It executes the whole program line by line. So that's why generally interpreters are comparatively found slower than compilers. Now, third one is assembler. An assembler converts the program written in the assembly language into the machine code. Now, an assembly language is itself a low level language, and we won't be discussing about it in this course. Now the question comes, is Python a compiled or an interpreted language? Right? I mean, the language which we are learning here, we have to know what kind of language is it? What kind of language processor does it use? Let's know the answer. Let's see. Python is generally called as an interpreted language, although the truth is Python is both interpreted and compiled. How's that? Let's see. Python's source code, which means the program that we write, is first compiled into something known as a bytecode, and then the bytecode is executed by the interpreter line by line. Let's understand this. Let's say this is the Python code or Python program that we write, and the Python source code, you can say, it is first compiled into something known as a bytecode, right? So we have a compiler here, and it's compiled into something known as a bytecode. Let's say it's a low level code. It's not the machine code, but a lower level code as compared to the Python source code that we write. And then this bytecode, let me just write byte code. Okay, and then this bytecode gets converted into the machine code, that is 0 and 1. The machine code is actually the lowest form of code we can ever imagine, as it is directly accessible and understandable by the computers. It's the closest language to the computer, so it's the lowest form of or a lowest level language. This is machine code. Now here the interpreter comes into the picture. This bytecode that the Python compiler generated is used by the interpreter. Okay, and this interpreter converts this bytecode into the machine code line by line, and then we see the output of a Python program, and that's how this works. So that is it about the language processors for now. I have provided some links in the description section below if you want to study more about language processors and about Python's language processing. I hope this was useful to you, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.